Welcome to the FMCG Guys, the podcast that dives into the innovation, strategy, and trends shaping consumer goods and retail in Europe and beyond.
Right. Welcome to the FMCG Guys podcast, live from Nimble's New York office here in Manhattan. If you're listening to this podcast, you can watch it on YouTube. And if you're watching us on YouTube, welcome. Very excited to be here to talk about, I think, probably the hottest topic in the industry, which is AI. But we're going to combine that with the conversions of data. And I think we hear like a lot of like experts talking about it. And even a lot of marketers talking about it, at least in my world. But today we're actually accompanied by the former EVP and CIO at lululemon. So very excited to hear about like how you've seen it from within the company and from the tech department, which, by the way, we don't normally cover so much in this podcast. So it's good to get a different perspective. And now founder at GoldFit, Julie Averill. Good to see you. And the other person that's here is no other than Nimble's Co-Founder and CEO, Uri Knorovich. How are you?
Good, great.
How's the year started for you guys? Good?
Good start, yeah. Here in New York, NRF, big conference that brings in so many people.
Yeah, I think I've done CES before in Vegas. Well, not to tell you about my big New Year's party, but that's for another moment. Of course, and then NRF. So, yeah, how are you seeing this year? Like, I don't know, like, there's obviously a lot of things happening from a world perspective, but also in the industry. What is it? If you had to tell me like what your expectation is for the year, what would you say?
I think there's still a lot of, we're in this place where there's a lot of hype about AI. People know that they want to do it. They don't know what that means. And then there's a lot of incredible advancements on the technology side. So interesting how those are going to be coming together, where companies really realizing how to take it down from the magic into how they can actually improve the business in bite-sized pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. In 25, we saw a lot of experiments, people working with AI, trying to figure out where AI can actually be deployed and provide value. In 26, we're expecting to see agents starting automating work that people were doing in the past. So either that's we're going to automate some headcount or automate manual work that people are doing, or on the other side, that will gain more efficiency and generate more value for the enterprises.
When was the ChatGPT boom? Was that 22? Yeah, I don't know if it feels like longer or shorter, but it's been interesting, no? Because like there was a bit of conversation about AI, but like it was weird because like from one day to the next, it just went to like in any conversation.
Yeah, for me, is that for a really long time, I've just been a nerd. Just doing computer, just doing data science. And I do remember that in a ChatGPT moment, that people do understand that they can actually communicate with computers, communicate with that investment in technology. My mom called me and said, no, these computers are useful. And now we all see that we can implement and we can inject AI or computers in general and to automate a lot of the work that we're doing today. And I do think that's not only that AI is been changing. Since COVID started, retailers and CPG started keeping the pace of advanced technology. And we're seeing, and you probably saw that in your career, been in a lot of places, that adding more technology into the day-to-day operation of the retailers or the CPGs is do change and provide impact.
Yeah. And I think the moment that you talked about when ChatGPT came out, right? AI has been happening for over a decade, but once it got into the hands of every person where they could interact, it makes sense. And so I think that's when the nerds became super relevant, right?
The age of the nerds.
Like I get it, yeah.
But also I think that as much as people are CEOs or CIOs or analysts on Wall Street, we're all like citizens. So I think that when that came out, the questions to the CEOs was like, what are you doing about AI, no? It became like, I don't know, you probably both saw it in your capacities, no?
Yeah, absolutely. And some things that we're seeing, those who are not adopting AI were left behind. As an example, what we do at Nimble, we're helping these enterprises to know exactly what are the prices of every product in the market. So if you're a retailer and you're selling your product, either at a physical store or an online store, the prices of your product and your competitors are online. So if your competitors know the market prices better than yourself, he can price his product better, so he can win the market. So today, AI is not only as something that is nice to have. If you not have it, you're basically left behind.
Yeah. Well, I think you're talking about a huge transformation, especially when we talk about traditional retailers, because you look at pricing information, that might be a monthly meeting where we get together and, we review pricing strategies, or maybe it's even set a year in advance. And what you're talking about is creating the organizational capability to be able to respond to those price changes in a minute, which is not just data, right? It's changing the distribution rights, the decision rights of everybody involved in those. So it's not one meeting where we all get together and we talk about it. Now we're giving that control over to an agent, and the business is different.
Yeah. I would say even more, that not only that the business can do way more with AI, but also consumer changing the way they're making decisions. With the advent of agentic commerce, we are now not checking only one product before we're making a decision. We have an agent that can help us to check 10 products. So consumer changing their mind, consumer moving way faster, so the businesses need to move faster. And the great part is that consumer adopting AI, enterprises adopting AI, so everybody can move faster.
Yeah, I think that's the two sides. There's the front-facing part of like how, for example, retailers show themselves to consumers, but also like the whole back end of which I'll ask you later, like how is the business taking AI and data to take decisions, but that consumers don't see, but consumers benefit from it, you know what I mean? For the benefit of myself, but also of the listeners, can you tell me, Uri, a bit about like what Nimble does? You talked about like real-time pricing data. How would you talk about Nimble in general?
Absolutely. So competitive pricing and knowing what your competitors are doing and how the product is being priced, availability and assortment, it's something that's been there since forever. People do send people to the physical stores, take pictures of the products, reporting back to the headquarters and the boardroom so you can make decisions. We saw that opportunity in Nimble, and we saw all the product and all that information is available online. And AI today can generally search in the web, but AI cannot provide the accuracy and completeness the enterprise need to make a pricing decision, to make a product decision. Either that you are an e-commerce department and you want to understand what will be your product information management or how the digital shelves look like, all your strategies, or you are the merchant and you want to understand how you should price your product. Or even if you are in the supply chain and you want to understand where the availability and assortment in every store or storefront, all that information has been available online. So what we do at Nimble, we train AI to go for scanning all the retailers globally, and we have an agent that's scanning every storefront in America and in globally. Stream that information. And the Nimble platform organize the data on the SKU level, on the store level, and provides this data in accuracy and completeness that's needed to make business decisions. And today we are very proud to work with most of the Fortune 500 companies and the retailers and the CPGs and providing real-time data to drive their agents. And our customer protect their gross margin, find new opportunities in the digital shelf, can understand if a product going below minimum advertising price, and eventually generate new opportunities for the business.
And that's like you have all this like a digital platform.
Yeah, absolutely. So Nimble, unlike a lot of players in the markets, it's using humans, it's doing web scraping. And this web scraping is fragile, is error-prone, and it's really hard to maintain, especially whenever e-commerce is moving extremely fast, new promotion, and the shelf is changing all the time. We have trained AI to do that. So we spend a lot of time in a lab to get to the accuracy and completeness that's needed. Every action that the agent is doing is being stored. We're taking screenshot and we store it. So all the time you can validate that the data that you're getting, you can trust. And then we're connecting our AI to every agent that's been deployed to Copilot or to Gemini or to ChatGPT. And right now you can make smarter business decisions. You can simply ask, what is the price of a butter in every storefront in America? and you can get that information. Well, in the past, you need to go and hire a lot of people that will go to all the store, take pictures.
And they probably like, if it's an agent that's been well trained, they can cover much more ground than a person, no?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
a sad reality of us as humans. We have limited capacities.
Yeah, our customers saying a lot of time that we as Nimble, they can go beyond human capabilities. In the past, human got a lot of abilities. We can go to the store, we can do a lot of stuff. Nimble agents can do one thing. They cannot decide which coffee is better. They cannot add the coffee to the specific basket and go outside. They can just go and add it to the basket and see what are the prices. And what our customers are doing, that's the same as Julie just said before. In the past, iteration of pricing or iteration of digital shelf or what keywords can we bet, because the agent can also search in keywords, was on a monthly basis and sometimes even on a quarterly basis. Now with the power of AI, with the power of Nimble has been deployed on enterprises, they can make decisions on a daily basis and sometimes even inter-day. Because if you are a marketeer and you're spending your marketing budget, as an example, in Amazon, and you know that your customers and eventually the people going to buy your product, they are searching your product, let's say it's going to be Kleenex, every morning. But you're relying on the data that's getting from a vendor that's doing the search at night. So you're getting the results only at night, which is not affecting what the consumer will see. During Prime Day, during holidays, we have customers that's updating the data every 5 minutes.
Wow.
So
is that the pricing as well?
Mostly promo. The price itself is not changing that often, but promo and availability is really the key facts. And the agents can go on the store level. So if agents got an IP addresses, each agent got a specific location and zip code, and we're changing what store the agents go and provide that information, and we provide that information.
What's your background? Because I know that you were most recently the CIO at Lululemon. How did you end up there?
My background. So early days was computers when I was in the 5th grade.
Could you imagine agents back then?
No, like I had a TRS-80, right? And no, before Windows. Yeah, but I just developed this early love for solving problems. Eventually studied computer science, but had no idea what that would mean, because I love the business side, I love the technology side, and I happened to land, after doing some consulting work, I landed in retail. And so I was at Nordstrom. At Nordstrom, and to me, that's where like the world lit up, because technology was just starting to enable and empower the business, doing things like omni-channel, where
what kind of like time was that? Like
this was 2007-ish.
So when people were like really starting to get a bit of a habit of shopping online, nothing close to now.
People were shopping online. When I started, Nordstrom.com was really a catalog business with a little website. And so, we grew the audience, realized that they weren't necessarily the same people, but the people that were shopping online were the same people that were going into the stores. So all of these incredible just realizations that today seem basic, but we were learning them, and we turned all of the Nordstrom stores into warehouses, right? Through omni-channel fulfillment, which was a breakthrough, right? The turn increased in all the stores, all the things today that we just know as like, of course that happens. Yeah, it was an incredible time. And then I went to REI, which is a nationwide outdoor company here. And
very well known for its, that every customer is like a co-owner of the business,
that's right?
Right?
A co-op. It's a co-op, yeah. And I became the CIO there. And then in, 8 years ago, Lululemon called me. They were a $2 billion retailer, Canadian. I live in Seattle. But it was just a really interesting opportunity, growing quickly. And I had the opportunity to help them grow from 2 billion to 10 billion in a period of 8 years. And it was just, you land in these incredible places in your career. And that's what that was for me.
How come why do you think you had like an affinity to technology, which is typically also a more like male dominated area of the business and just in general, like I think guys, now it's changing actually a bit. We've traditionally played more video games or been more on computers and so on.
Well, and absolutely. When I was deciding to study computer science, I was not the norm for sure. But for me, computers are so logical, right? And powerful. So that was why I loved it. I always loved solving puzzles, and I just like the creative. Maybe I'm a nerd too, a nerd at heart. But then pairing up with the business, that's really where the magic happens for me, when we can use technology to create new business models, to rethink about the opportunities in the company.
Yeah, because what does like the day-to-day of a CIO look like in terms of like, we all hear CIO, but what do you actually do?
Strategy, meeting a lot with the leaders. So on the business side, figuring out where the company is going and how technology can enable that. A lot of times where it's blocking. We grew in China. I had to build a whole team in China that knows all the local platforms and, super relevant in China. And then as we were growing internationally, you need a website, you need the whole everything to power the stores, the customer management, and you start, building all of that data, bringing that data in across the enterprise. There's supply chain, of course, there's marketing, there's just like a whole bunch of different functions in retail that all aggregate data.
So many things in retail, so many elements to look after.
Yeah. One of the things that's really interesting to me, because you're one of the rare persons that's actually took a business and did it more than one time, and through technology helping to do the transformation. And eventually you took Lululemon and be part of the executive leadership. That's the company went from 2 billion to 10 billion in very short time, which is incredible. And here in America, we do see how Lulu has been growing, and we do see how some other competitors going to the market, and we do see how the market started reacting for the movements that Lulu started, which is fascinating. And I know that Lululemon is unique because they do control the full supply chain.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how you can apply for first principle what you saw from Lululemon as an example with the power of AI today, with the power of Nimble today. What will be the impact of the business of having real-time data of what's the competitor doing, what people are talking, what's the market is reacting?
I'll give you what I think is the best example where Lululemon from a technology perspective is different than other retailers that I've seen. Because they do own that full life cycle go-to-market, they started implementing RFID really quickly. So I'll go back to Nordstrom. When we turned on omni-channel, you're in some ways guessing at the product that you have available.
If ideally these like electronic tags,
right,
that you can track your merchandise,
you can
right?
uniquely identify every single product and where it is, every single item. And so we tried at Nordstrom, we did a pilot for RFID because conceptually you can understand how powerful this could be if you can know exactly where every product is at every single moment in time. And it was really difficult. We even tried it just on a category of merchandise, but in a store that's 100,000 plus square feet and you've got lots of different items, let's just talk about shoes, right? If you're going to RFID a shoe, do you put the RFID tag on the box? Do you put it on the left shoe, on the right shoe? What happens if you no longer have the box or the right shoe? So, there's just a lot of complexities that come in. Lululemon eventually solved those, but at the time, given the merchandising mix of Nordstrom, it was too expensive and it was not sustainable. Then at Lululemon, they had invested in RFID early, maybe 2013. And now it's a competitive advantage because at Nordstrom, you couldn't show every single item that was available. You had to guess. So you put in threshold. If I have these shoes, maybe I'm only going to show 80% of them online because maybe that 20% I'm never going to be able to find. But at Lululemon, you can show, because you have confidence, you can show a much higher threshold and not result in customer cancel. So when we first went live at Nordstrom, we had over 50% cancel rate because we just said, yeah, everything's available. And then you were looking for, a pair of black socks and
They were not there. They showed up anyway.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Not guessing is important, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so data gives you that power to be able to, really optimize your business. Like if you can, as a retailer, if you can show every product to every channel where customers are shopping, optimize your whole inventory.
And what question, because I could see like why for a marketing leader or a CEO, like data would be important. Why is it important for a CIO?
Well, because the CIO is the one that's enabling the entire business, right? So my business partners are the head of retail, the head of e-commerce, the head of supply chain. And so, I want all the data. I want all the data to be available. I want it to be perfect. I want it to be real time. Of course it can't, but the better the data is, the better job that I can do in helping enable the business.
Yeah, I guess that your role is a lot about like, you really need to understand the business.
Yeah.
Because there's so many like innovations or investments you could do that you have to understand like all the communicating glasses, so to speak, to see like where it makes more sense, no?
Right. Yeah. I would never do technology for technology's sake. Even when we went to the cloud, right? You do it because it serves a business problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that in many cases we come into the boardroom and then the CEO will come and say, hey, I want to know how my product is being priced versus my competitor. I want to know exactly where the margins are, what can improve, where I'm losing market segment. And then we're getting inside and we start surfacing the data. And whenever a strong CIO sitting in the room, we know that the implementation time is going to be way faster and eventually the business is going to unlock way more business value. Why? Everybody wants to be data-driven. This is true. Everybody wants to be data-driven. Everybody wants to make smart decisions. But in reality, they are nitty-gritty. As an example, the RFID of, let's put RFID, but should I put it on the box, on the shoes? CEO said, hey guys, go figure it out. And then the executive leadership need to work together to implement that strategy. And I do think that whenever the technology side of the house and the merchant or the e-commerce working together, that's the way the business can win.
Yeah. And another element I wanted to talk about is the data seems like a fixed picture sometimes, or it has like that like prejudice a bit, I guess, that it's like, why do I want the fixed picture if I'm like taking decisions for tomorrow? And you and me, Uri, in June, we were in a panel. We were in a panel with the CEO of BIC and the CMO of Campari. And it was interesting because they kind of had this belief of like, long-term vision, fixed strategy and so on. But I think that you raised some very good points that day, Uri, and I think you kind of convinced them as well. Like how do you see data in this role of like, not only being a fixed picture, but actually being, a bit of like a way to see the future, so to speak, and to help set a vision?
I think in many ways, digital shelf analytics tools being there, because the value of having competitive pricing is not you. Everybody trying to do that. And the way that the market is doing it today is by using humans. These humans either is going to the store or doing web scraping. And the output for the businesses is getting data every month or sometimes data every day, but the data is very rigid. So the data cannot provide exactly the information that we need. Where we are coming in, we're allowing these businesses to do fast iteration, to ask questions. The AI will go search the information in real time, will summon the result in real time, and then they can ask you follow-up questions. We're changing the way that today, something that we're hearing all the time from CPGs and fast-moving companies, they are saying, whenever we need to have a new data, whenever we're seeing in Amazon or in Walmart, they're adding a new tag, now it's a process of speaking with a project manager, that need to speak with a product manager, that need to speak with a vendor, that need to speak with an engineer, that need to speak with another engineers, until the way that we've got this process, it's going to take us 3 weeks and the promotion is not available anymore. Or till we've got it, no, that's not the way that we want it. Now we need to change. We're changing it. With Nimble, you can be active. If you're working in a retail or in CPG and you got an hypothesis and you want to see how your competitors adding more videos, maybe it's helping in conversion. We can just simply ask, how many videos do every product in the category have compared to my videos? And then you can see the data, and you can correlate it with your sales. You can correlate it with SEO and SEM ranks. You can correlate with everything that's happening within ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity, because the agents can go there as well. So for your point, if you're working on retail and CPG, you don't need to stay in the backseat anymore. You don't need to wait. You can simply be active, ask questions, and with the power of agents, with the power of AI, you can get the results that you need.
I think one thing that you bring up for me is, you're right there with leading companies making real-time decisions. And I think even when you were talking about being data-driven, I think that organizations are going through an evolution. So we used to say we wanted to be, we needed reports, right? Data was an afterthought. Like, okay, don't forget to collect the data because we want some reports on it. Then we said we want to be data-driven, which is about, okay, we want to look at historical data and see where it's going to lead us into the future. And now it's more of an organization that's operating in real time with the data.
Mm.
So, and that's a different way. It's not just a speed. It's an organizational change. Like the hierarchies are changing. You clear exactly who makes decisions about adjusting a price. If you're going to let an agent do it, who owns that decision if it is disadvantageous to one of your partners. So I just think we have to go through that evolution of the organizations to be able to be where these leading edge organizations are finding themselves today.
Do you see like a tipping point of like the data and the reporting as being like a support to like decisions, to more like gut feel decisions? Where's the tipping point of actually being totally data driven and where like data and AI is moving the needle?
Yeah, I think it's curiosity of the organization, and it's how decisions are made. So if everything has to go up through the hierarchy of an organization, it's about convincing people. Bring me the data, show me the data. What does it mean? I want more data. It's what you're talking about, like having to talk to everybody to convince them. Those organizations move slowly. And then I think the organizations of the future that we're seeing now are those that have the guardrails in place. So they understand the data, they understand the data, they understand the risk profile that they're willing to take. So, yes, I know data may not be perfect, but here's what I'm willing to experiment with, right? To understand how I can build the trust with the data. It's a very different mindset.
Yeah. How do you see it also from, you speak with industry leaders every day?
For us, it's all about accuracy and completeness. Nimble is known for being a reliable partner. And everybody can ask AI, give me the prices. And everybody's saying that digital shelf analytics is not accurate. Digital shelf analytics got a lot of data hiccups. And the reason for that, because they're using humans to collect the data. Either as it's going to the stores or doing web scraping. So that's the market standard. We're coming with the approach that we are partners. It's not going to be accurate all the time. Sometimes the agent will say, hey, sorry, this piece of data is not available online. And we have trained AI to do that, because there is one thing that's worse than not having the data, is having inaccurate data. And Nimble is very proud to lead that innovation and the organization of the future. And right now we're partnering with the leading brands and the leading CPGs that right now spending the time. They do understand the legacy digital shelf analytic tools would not serve them in the age of the agentic commerce. In the agentic commerce, prices and promotions are going to serve for agents. So they need to have a tool, they need to have a partner that can work in the pace, in the speed where the market is going.
Yeah. It's an interesting dynamic, no? Because like, what does that mean? What does it mean? Like, if people are using, the ChatGPTs or Perplexities of this world to like decide what they buy, and I think that very soon, if not now, already buy through them. What does that mean, like, for their own internal data? Like, and I guess they can't afford to have data being a mess.
Yeah, absolutely. Think about ourselves as a consumer. So before we making an investment, we buying something that's right now, when we're buying a new fridge. So you're not buying a new fridge every week or every month, and I hope not every year.
It's a big decision to buy.
It's a big decision. Yeah, we're gonna stick with that decision for a while.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right now, we've spent some time. We've been working with ChatGPT or with Gemini or with Copilot, and we've done the research, and we call our friends, and maybe we even went to the store, and we saw that, okay, it fits right now. Before we're gonna have the actual buy, we're gonna compare a few websites, we can compare a few stores. I would say that after 5, I'm feeling that I'm getting the price range and I'm feeling good. I'm gonna stop around 5. Right now, when I have a team of agents that's working for me, I'm telling ChatGPT, I'm telling this AI, go check for 100 websites. I don't care, he's checking for me. So right now, the consumer changed the behavior. In the past, after 3 or 5 websites that you're comparing, you just make a decision. In the past, you're just getting into Amazon, you're comparing a few, and you're just making the decision. With AI, you're comparing way more websites. What's the meaning of that for enterprises? I'm less affected by the experience in the website because the agents will do that for me. I do affect by the brand, the price, and availability. That information, availability and price, I don't care. Nimble do provide all that information. Right now, you can have the prices. Right now, you can win the market share.
But it's interesting because if we're buying through agents and that means that we need to be innovating not innovating as well, but like changing and updating like web promo very fast. Does that mean ultimately that we have to like outsource a lot of, not only the research, but the decisions to agents?
I do think that we're moving from data to insights to actions. The organizations of the futures will have humans that's managing a command centers of agents work for them. So the humans and the business decision, and I'm keen to hear your thoughts about it, will set the rules, will say where to go, what are the guardrails, what my relationship with the partner. And then they will oversee how the agent has been working. So they will have a lot of small digital workers doing work for them, and they will tell them what to do.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's, that's the future. And, for some people, the future is almost here. Others, it's not. So that's that journey. I know you see this all the time when you're working with customers, like how do you build agents that have the transparency that you need, the trust that you need, so that you can build this decision-making framework that allows you that automation because you trust it. And data, like you have to have trusted data going into it.
Yeah. And the true reality is that in many cases, the first deployments, that's what our agent is doing, is creating the old and no scorecards of us versus the competitor. The same scorecards that Nielsen IQ has been providing, and all the others like data vendors have been providing. And for our customers, say, hey, the first time is that we can get it fast. So getting the same manners that you're used to, that you're familiar, that the people are being trained, and then starting offering more advanced capabilities as part of the agent, because it takes time.
And one question, how do you solve, because we talked about like because they always say if you want to do AI, you need to have your data in place. How are you solving that from Nimble? Is that something that you help companies as well, like ramp up so they can be ready to do the next thing?
Julie and I had a lot of conversation about it. It always starts with the foundation. It always starts with having a proper data foundation in the company. And we extremely happy to partner with Microsoft and Snowflake and Databricks as a data vendors and the data lakehouse. And the organization do understand they need to have this data stored. And it's a big shift because in the past, you used to just log into an app, and in this app, you get your competitive pricing and a vendor doing everything for you. And right now, we do see that this enterprise say, hey, we want to have all this data. Just give us the data. We will mesh it. We'll combine it. So we're coming in. We're helping them to get the data instead of lock-in vendor. Right now, it's been open. They have the data stored, the competitive data in their Snowflake or Databricks or Azure.
That's so important to have your own data and you leverage the services of whatever companies you want to, but own your data. And so for a retailer, it's that, it's the primary, it's product, it's inventory, it's your customer. Those are the most important things. And I see the same thing, but I also see with smaller companies, they're forming, I was just meeting with a company, it was super interesting. They have a small technology team, maybe 10 people. 3 of them are about data.
Oh.
Right. So they know that from the very beginning. We want someone who understands how we're going to architect our systems to get the data that we want and how we're going to make our secret sauce inside something that no vendors or even employees can ever get to. So how do we create our own agents that keep what's special about us special?
Is that kind of what you also do day to day? Like, yeah, because one could think, oh yeah, we have an agent, we just deploy it into wherever, let the agent do their thing. I guess that every company has their own.
Absolutely. People think about digital shelf analytics and people think about competitive pricing in general, that, oh yeah, you're already scanning everything. But the true fact is that every leader got his own view on the market. What's important? Right now, you've been optimizing of click and collect. It's extremely important to know exactly what's happening within click and collect. But right now, the e-commerce team know that specifically Spain and France are the most growing market for you. So you want the agent to go and do click and collect in that 2 specific regions. That's what's important for you. And then the agent will go for the nitty-gritty to the information on your product and your competitor product. But different company will say, we just see a surge in our demand because we are thinking that agentic commerce changing the way it works for us. So we want to zoom in specifically for our agentic commerce in specific stores in the West, in America, is been changing. So you're telling the agents, go scanning that sources. So what we do, we basically translating the hypothesis that the business has. And because we're coming, unlike traditional pricing tool that's work with rigid humans that need to set everything, we can just train the agent, go specifically there, pull the information that you need, and then basically it's an extension of your team.
And what kind of gap do you see between everything that we're talking about and what's actually like possible for, and maybe we can differentiate. I think it would be interesting to differentiate retail, like a lululemon, that basically the consumers shop in, to CPG brands, which very rarely or very small percentage go direct to consumer.
So I do think that Amazon and Walmart and Target are doing big changes all the time. And Amazon, Walmart, and Target are partners for the brands, for the CPGs, and they're sharing a lot of information. But having that information and adding an extra layer of real-time digital shelf analytics, what's happening right now on the shelf, is a true power. So what we do, we're helping these amazing e-commerce leaders, amazing head of merchant, amazing head of growth that do want to push their business forward, to deploy another layer of agents. Sometimes we adding our layer of agents on top of existing digital shelf analytics, and sometimes they're replacing completely the digital shelf analytics with team of agents that do this work for them.
Mm-hmm. So you could be working with one of the big digital shelf solutions and work with you guys at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And we always partnering with the physical store companies, and we have native integration with all of them. So it's important to have the complete picture, full data, as Julie just said. If you don't have the full data, it's hard to make decisions. And we help the brands and our customers to excel and win the market. This is the alpha, this is the edge.
What type of resistance do you normally get? Well, in your experience from your colleagues of like implementing or being more data driven?
Yeah, well, I think of a lot of companies that have leveraged large SaaS providers, and the contract, like the advantage that those SaaS providers have right now is that they have the data. So a retailer can't break free because they lose access to their data, and there's no way that those providers are going to just give you an export and be fine with it. So it's a huge point where folks are in a pretty tough position. Do I go to
it's
a more
what you
modern...
said about owning the data, no?
Yeah.
Because then what do? You need to buy them.
Yeah.
You buy it out, or?
Yeah. And if they're not willing to
They're
sell...
selling
Yes.
extremely expensive data licenses. By the way, it's extremely important because we have saw during the recent holiday season here in the US, one of the leading e-commerce globally, I cannot mention the name, you will get it because it's a really crisp story. They're selling their product through Amazon. And they're all the time maintaining the price level of the product because it's a luxury product. And the consumer is searching for the promotion. But Amazon themselves do also have a sales target to the holiday seasons. And Amazon decided to sponsor a promotion of the line of product of that specific company. They are using Nimble. And during the holiday seasons, they're calling us to say, we're seeing weird stuff. We're seeing a promotion on our product. And they logged inside as users using their PC. And it shows that Amazon sponsored a promotion of their product. Because they were using Nimble, they've been catching that right away. They called Amazon, and Amazon said, oh, sorry, it was like an automated AI. By the way, AI is a mistake that catches it. So I think it's important because if you're working with a vendor that's not sharing this data, it's hard for you to prove it. And whenever you're sharing with a vendor that's sharing all this data with you with open mind and open partnership, you can actually work with your partner, with Amazon in that case, and protect your product and protect the ways that you perceive the market.
And you can create joint value as well, no? So I think it's interesting as well, because in CPG you have this basically the relationship between the retailer and the brand is not a relationship of trust. It's a relationship, a lot of times it's more a relationship of who gets more out of that relationship than not how we can create joint value. I think in Europe, there's a big issue. It's like a race to the bottom, you know what I mean? So maybe with these having data, you can prove more the case of winning together.
We're always pushing for collaboration. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah. And I think this example you gave is a great one of how do you maintain your brand integrity as you do more agent-driven things and a guardrail that needs to be in place. So if it's a luxury retailer, probably don't want promotions applied. So they were probably 5-alarm fire who's putting our product on sale because that's brand dilution in a lot of cases. So I think it's not using data just to make decisions, but also using the data to be able to raise the flags really quickly so you understand what's.
And being in the executive team, also in the last years, how have you seen being data-driven change the dynamic of accountability?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question.
Because, data is normally, I think that in my mind, you would relate it more to more tactical decisions.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it influences the decisions at the boardroom as well, no?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, there's a lot of companies that, like I talked about before, you roll up the summaries of the data. How were sales? We're going to look at sales every single day. How were sales? How do they divide up by the leader of those selling areas? And then once a quarter, the CEO sees them and asks questions. And I think what we're changing to is a much more dynamic world where you can say, why are these pants not selling in this area? What can we, did a competitor just land right next door? And do we need to do a change in our merchandising strategy? So, I think accountability, to your question, is still pretty similar, but the actions that are enabled to be able to not just look back a quarter, but be able to see what's happening right now and be able to make decisions in the moment to impact the quarter real time is where I'm seeing changes happen.
And how did you see data impact the long-term strategy? Where do we want to be in the future? What's the vision of the company for the next 10 years?
Yeah, that is always a hard one, but I think it's getting easier. In the past, I can tell you, we'd have a project and we'd have all the functionality enabled, and then we'd be like, we forgot to add reporting. Somebody pull something. So we got to have a change order for reporting. And it definitely was the caboose on the capabilities that we were driving. And now it's data is almost driving the reason why, right? Here's the data that we can get from it that we can draw insights from. But there's still a lot of work, especially in retailers, in building out the, great data. If you're a company that's been around for more than 20 years, your data is
More
not
than
going to
20
be
years, which is not that much. Imagine 100 or something.
Yeah, but think of how much technology has changed even in the last 5 years. So the data isn't great. And so you need to make investments in great product data so that a company like Nimble can come in and help match what they're seeing externally with the data you have internally. So to your question of how do those decisions get made, takes a lot of alignment because they're big investments on how do you improve your product data across the company, and it may take multiple years. But
why should I, lululemon, for example, why should I go into another category of products, for example, like all these things, or geographical expansion, or a lot of, you name it.
Yeah, and how can you bring all the data that might be available to that decision? And at the end of the day, it's a question of risk. What are the risks that you're willing to take? What are the bets that you're willing to make?
Yeah. You founded the company, in 2021? It's short time, but a lot has happened since then. Have you seen, yourself, that industry people are seeing you more as a trusted advisor in their strategy rather than a data solution?
Yeah, especially the e-commerce, because things moving extremely fast, and especially these days on the Agentic commerce, and people are looking for what is happening there. What should we do? How we can click there? Then we have a team of social consultants that work with our customers, not only to provide the data they need, but also to analyze strategies and build a way to upload into our solution department. So absolutely, we're seeing all the types of leaders. It's going to be e-commerce leader, head of pros, also CIOs and CEOs coming to us and say, hey, you've been working with all the leading brands in our category. Don't tell us exactly what they do because we have a visual for each customer, but tell us how can we implement Nimble technology into our business to drive more adoption.
Really? Well, look, since you mentioned that you're a trusted advisor, now I'll ask you to be a trusted advisor to our audience. And I want to separate it I'll ask you about retail, but to you, I'll ask you, since you work with retailers, but also with CPG brands, what would be your number one recommendation? Maybe it's the same in terms of what can they do about Agentic? I think that will be a lot of times the question. What can I do? What should I prioritize? Let's start with a CPG, FMCG brand.
I think it's mostly for CPGs because Agentic on the retail it's a bit different. In my opinion, I'm interested to hear what you say. Track and monitor. No one knows how exactly AI will change the way the consumer is going to change their mind because it's data. But the data is been out there. Using companies like Nimble, you can send agents that will search like the image, but not in one quality, thousands and other thousands of those. And I'm looking for a pair of shoes and see what the agent will. I'm looking for bike fridge, see what the agent will. So start working with companies like Nimble, see the data, see how it works in action, and start building your strategy. So my recommendation, monitoring, keep the pulse, and then you can be smart with it.
Why is retail different since you mentioned? What dynamic are you seeing there?
So we do see the dynamic that the market become way more competitive, and it drives the way that the consumer is changing, the way that the decisions move. So an example in the past, the notion was, if I'm working within Amazon, let's talk about only for the consumers that starting his journey in Amazon will finish it on Amazon. So I do care to see the prices within Amazon. And if I'm working within Walmart, so consumers is doing his shopping in Walmart, we stay in Walmart. We're starting to see an application, the piloting wear tracking and also working in the support room because these consumers starting his journey, as an example in Gemini, and then Gemini offering Amazon and offering Walmart. So I have less loyalty to Amazon or Walmart, and I do have more loyalty for the brands that I'm buying at the price. So for CPGs, invest in the brand is the most important thing. And the second one, see the prices, see the availability, and see how it's get visibility across the Agentic commerce and the traditional.
It's a marketing solution and then a merchandising one, more for the retail.
Working with both departments all the time. Jill, where do you see the value of implementing technology, like where you see how people can unlock retailers to drive more small business?
I think it is unlocking in many places today. And I think for the traditional retailers, having that real-time competitive data set that allows you to dynamically adjust your strategies is going to be a huge unlock. I think that, the pricing strategies of the past are not going to become the pricing strategies of the future. And the behaviors that you talk about are so real time. If you don't have access to that real time data, how are you going to be in that game?
Absolutely. So I think that I'll leave your contact details while your LinkedIn profile in the show notes if anyone wants to get in touch with you guys, and learn more about Nimble. Meant to ask you, what are you up to now?
So I left Lululemon and I wrote a book that's coming out in May from Microsoft.
Well, let me know. We'll make a post about it. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So doing that, I'm working with a bunch of different companies doing advisory work, getting smart with people like Uri on, what's going on in the marketplace. And I'm doing some board work.
Fantastic. I'll leave your contact details as well. I don't know if there's any before I ask you the famous last question, which maybe I didn't let you know about, but you'll be fine. I wanted to ask you if there's any last message that you think would be worth sending the audience about, what to expect in the next year and what they should do.
I would say focus as much on the humans as you focus on the technology. These transformations are not about bringing in new technology and having it solve problems. We are talking about reconstructing organizations, the way that their hierarchy is structured, the way that decisions are made, the way that people are recognized and rewarded. That is at least as complicated as the technology.
I think that was ready for that.
I don't think everybody is. Yeah, for sure. I think it's a huge change that's happening right now.
Just be connected to the market and be connected to our consumers. There are great tools today to be connected to the market, to be connected to the consumers. Ask the questions, be curious, and then you can unlock a huge value. We don't need to change the way that you work. You already got the tools, you already got the business processes. It's been working. Back to basic was extremely important last year when I went to the physical store. In 26, when you should keep working with the basics and listening to the market, listening to the consumer, and then we can make smart decisions.
Cool. Well, the famous last question is, if you went back to the beginning of your career, what would be that one piece of advice you would give yourself with all the lessons learned?
That I would tell myself, you got this. You're enough. Don't pretend like you're anybody else. Don't feel like you have to stand in anybody else's shoes. It's your life and it's yours to lead.
Believe in yourself. Just keep working with the things that you do believe in, what you consider to be right. Don't look anywhere else. And that's eventually with our work would pay off, which is very similar to yours.
Did you copy me?
I wish. No, but that's where I started computer science,
From the beginning, he copied you. No, but I think it's very interesting. I think the conclusion that I have is that being data-driven is no longer an option. It's just an obligation, basically, that agentic commerce is kind of intimidating because I think it's just going to change the whole game. And in agents in general, be it in how we buy, but also how companies have to operate and be very quick. And I loved what you both mentioned about people, right? In order to do that change, not only about implementing a technology, and that's coming from a CIO, but it's about the people that can drive that change and are ready to drive that change. So thanks a lot, guys, for joining me. Well, thanks to our audience for tuning in. Remember, you can get in touch with these two amazing whiz kids in the industry, and we'll see you in the next episode of the FMCG, guys. Have a great one.